Durham, North Carolina is one of the fastest growing cities in the United States and enjoys a reputation as a city with one of the highest qualities of life in the country. Its lush green foliage provides a fresh backdrop against a myriad of new construction alongside remnants of its roots in tobacco. These times of change are evident in the region's cuisine, blending classic Southern flavors with a lighter and fresher fare, such as at Pop's. In today's program, Scott Howell fuses Italian with a Southern feel in a risotto with roasted peppers and fresh corn right off the cob. Radicchio wrapped goat cheese on greens with toasted tomato vinaigrette make the perfect complement. Regina also visits a nearby goat farm and learns the process of making goat cheese, and later calls on a kitchen where future chefs are learning the trade.
If you watch a lot of cooking programs, you may have seen our chef today, Scott Howell, here at Pop's in Durham, North Carolina, on Great Chefs of the South. And one thing I'm noticing here is the dishes that we're doing today are very contemporary, but what's your concession to Southern cooking still in this very, very hip restaurant we're in?
I think what we try to do, Regina, is we try to do as simple a food with the freshest of ingredients as we can in an Italian style, but try to keep a little Southern flair to it.
I saw back there in the bins a little bit of ham and bacon and things like that that we're not putting in today's recipes.
Sure.
But that would sort of be one way that you're keeping the Southern roots in, is it's pork country, actually.
Instead of using pancetta, say,
yeah,
which is a fresh bacon, we'll use something like smoked bacon or hickory smoked bacon. So it kind of gets us back to this area.
So this is a little bit of a challenge because we're here, we're not using any of those things, so you're going to be creative and substitute a little bit of roasted red pepper in our risotto dish that we'll be doing a little later on. But we're going to start out with a wonderful fresh goat cheese that's produced around here. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And radicchio salad.
This is a local goat cheese, so it's real nice and fresh, but what we want to do is cut them into nice big sections because when they cook, it softens down a little bit.
Sure.
So instead of just to where it wilts, you want to make sure that the sections are big enough, but not too big. You know, the thing about it is you can always cook it a little bit longer if you want to, so that's not a problem.
So now I'm anxious to see what happens where the radicchio comes in.
Well, what I'm going to do first is I'm going to put a little marination on the goat cheese while we're taking care of the radicchio. So I'll always do that. Whenever I marinate something, I usually don't use salt because I can always go back with salt.
Right.
That way it's not too harsh for you. And then start with the radicchio. So I just take off the bottom part of it, just a touch, right down here. And then peel the large. You want to keep the leaves intact as much as you can.
And it's packed pretty tightly. It's like a...
This is a beautiful head of radicchio, by the way.
It is. It's just like a cabbage in that it's so tight, but the leaves are a little thinner, so you have to be a little careful peeling it sometimes.
One thing about marinating the goat cheese, too, is that you can use a lot of different things. Sometimes we use orange zest, lemon zest, you know, any kind of herbs that you like the best. But I think that's the one thing about cooking with vegetables. All right, so when we get the leaves like this, just drop them down in here. And it only has to be for a second. The white part at the bottom of the radicchio is really bitter. And radicchio is bitter, you know. That's the thing about it. But you've got to soften that bottom white part of the radicchio in order for it to wrap the goat cheese and to stay real nice. You don't have to do anything else to it at that point.
Now, do you need this olive oil? I set it off the table a minute ago. If you need it for anything,
we need to put a little bit on the goat cheese, actually.
Okay. Do you want me to just drizzle a little bit on?
Sure.
Okay.
So real briefly, we've got a little ice bath back here. And what I like to do, just a touch, is take the radicchio and just dry it, just a touch. Doesn't have to be much.
I like it.
But that way, when you do that and you put it into a hot pan with oil, the water won't pop at you.
Right.
Or the oil won't pop at you because of the water. What I like to do is get it to where the round part is down. I push it down just a little bit. And what we'll do is just wrap it up nice and tight.
And this type of goat cheese, by the way, does not have any salt in it. This is just a really, it's not a salty cheese like feta, for example.
No, not at all.
So you're wrapping it
and extremely fresh.
Very fresh. I haven't seen this before. This is a nice innovation.
You know, plus you can do it. You can do different things too. It just doesn't have to be goat cheese.
Right.
But goat cheese works so well.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty also. Nice thing about the
Turns
color
out-
in Radicchio.
Yeah, it
All
turns
these
out
colors are nice together.
really nice on the plate.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna do only 3.
That's good.
You know, Regina, I think there's a lot of different oils that you can use. But I think what we're going to use extra virgin olive oil today, and this olive oil has not been filtered that much, so
Right.
it's really nice and clean.
Nice and fresh.
Just a little bit. So we've got the skillet hot. You don't need an enormous amount there.
Okay.
So then, wherever you're having the most seams on the radicchio, I like putting the white part in first. A little bit like that. And
I
what
love
it'll-
how you work.
And what it'll do is it'll seal it. Just a little bit of salt
Uh-huh.
and a touch of pepper on top. We're gonna let that sear just for a second. And then once I want to get just a little bit of color on it. I think the color caramelizes the radicchio a little bit, makes it a little bit sweeter versus bitter. Also, what we're doing too, because we're going to do the vinaigrette for it,
Right.
is we've taken the Roma tomatoes, same type process. A little bit of olive oil, nice and seasoned, sear them in the pan, and then drop them into the oven. What I'm going to do is turn the radicchio over, and then we'll just put it into about a 350-degree oven, say for a solid 5 minutes. You want
Okay.
the cheese to not be cold in the middle.
Okay.
Okay, we've roasted the tomatoes for about 30 minutes. What you're looking for is just to make sure that there's brown color on the outside of the tomatoes.
What's the temperature of the oven you roast them in?
350.
Okay.
What I'll do here, and you know, you can work with tongs, I think is a smart thing so you don't burn your hands at home. That juice in there, we're going to use, the tomato juice we're going to use with the vinaigrette too. So I'm going to go ahead and put it into the Robichaux over here,
Robichaux, which is
or the Cuisinart.
Cuisinart or any kind of food processor.
So what we'll do here is just you can leave the skin on if you want to. I think it's better if you don't. We'll cut the end off real quick.
Now this is going to become part of the base for the vinaigrette, your roasted tomatoes?
Exactly. Now, all vinaigrettes are based, or the way we base all our vinaigrettes here, are on a 2-part olive oil, 1 part vinegar.
Right. Classic.
Yeah, so
Okay.
we use the same olive oil. And I've got, we've got about 3 tomatoes in there. It looks about a 1/4 cup or so of
Yeah.
the vinegar. I'm going to put a little bit of sliced shallot in. Touch of salt,
Nice coarse sea salt.
touch of pepper. You can put it all in at one time, which is fine. I think that you can control your olive oil, your thickness of the vinaigrette, your flavor of the vinaigrette a little bit better, I believe.
We have all the ingredients assembled. We've just pulled this off of the food processor, and I conveniently found a spoon because I have to see what this roasted tomato vinaigrette tastes like. It's smooth, but it has a nice, full, earthy, rustic flavor. Gosh, that's wonderful. So is this one of your most popular items on the menu now?
For vegetarians, yes. I mean, we do a lot of vegetarian.
And that's kind of what we're trying to find along the way here, is that most good restaurants will accommodate you, whether you do or don't eat meat. If you have a good chef and a good restaurant, there's always something good on the menu. This is one of the best vinaigrette dressings I've had, I have to say. It's really wonderful.
Okay, see how they've gone down a little bit?
Yeah.
It's swollen out a little bit.
Oh yeah, in fact, you can see a little bit of the cheese coming out of a seam there.
And if that happens, that's fine.
Oh, it's tempting.
So we're just going to take it really quickly. Just set them right on the plate.
Oh, this is beautiful. Really unique. Very good. Now, while you're finishing plating that, I've just been busting at the seams to take you out on the field trip we took yesterday. We went out to Celebrity Goat Dairy Farm yesterday, and they're the ones that produce this really fresh cheese and are very selective about who they distribute it to. So you've got to be good because they wouldn't let you have their cheese if you weren't.
And that is true. I tell you,
It is true.
Fleming is very particular about who she gives her goat cheese
And
to.
you can see why.
Okay, how many are coming in for supper? Come on. Come on in for supper. You better get in there. You better get in there. Come on. Come on, get in there. You go, you go. Good girls. We supply our cheeses only as far as I can drive in about a half an hour. We have a good population in this area that wants the cheese, and especially the fine restaurants. We're very picky about who we sell our cheese to.
Do you sell goat milk at all, or is it all goat cheese?
We haven't enough milk to make the cheese that we have demand for, so we don't sell any milk from the farm.
So now you make it from varying stages of softness through semi-soft all the way to hard cheese?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. So can we go take a look at some of your cheese?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It's amazing how really very simple and rustic the operation of making cheese is, isn't it?
It is, and this is the way. It has no curds in it, except the last part. I'm going to reach down and get some of the curds. Now this is what the curds look like. See, those are the milk solids, and that's what we want to keep. And the whey will go back to the animals.
How'd you learn how to make cheese?
Step by step. I went and got a book out of the library and started on my kitchen stove and have experimented until we got the kind of cheese that we're making now. Now, here's a typical order. We've taken the cheese and we double wrap it.
Now I'm noticing here on this order, you have 12 logs of chev, and some says dill, pepper top, rosemary.
Mm-hmm.
Do you actually add the garlic and the spices here to some of them?
We do.
Here we go.
We coat them, we roll it in the herb. For instance, that one is rolled in rosemary. This one is rolled in dill.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Isn't that pretty?
So fresh.
Then we've got another one that's rolled in paprika and garlic.
Well, it's just beautiful. I
thank
mean,
you.
looking at it, and you can actually see the herbs are still fresh, and it's nice to be able to actually see the source and know that this hasn't been sitting around for a month or two, that this is the real deal.
It can't. We sell out every week.
Those little goats made us feel good. We were so happy out there, we didn't want to leave. Okay, so we're doing risotto now, and you have some unique ingredients in it, and you've eliminated the ham, and we're going to be putting something else in its place. So, where do we start?
We're going to caramelize onions. We're going to do a risotto with caramelized onions, caramelized red onions today. You could use white onions, Maui onions, Vidalia onions, whatever
And some-
kind of onion that you want to use. Some sweet corn we're going
Okay.
to use today. And then instead of ham or what we use sometimes is prosciutto or that type of thing, we're going to use roasted red peppers.
Very good. Adds nice colors and nice sweet flavor.
Absolutely. I think the main thing about risotto that people don't do is that they'll add the butter and the Parmesan too early, or they haven't cooked the rice long enough. And if you do that, what happens is the rice gets coated with the fat. It will not allow the stock, the vegetable
moisture in.
stock, and it'll stop cooking. And then you have a lot of little hard pellets
Very good. That's an excellent
that you
point.
can't get creamy. So we're going to caramelize the onion. I like to cook them nice and slow on the back. Let them go for about 10 to 15 minutes. You can cover them if you want to, but what you're going to do is just take that moisture, the liquid from the onions is going to come out. It's going to stew the onions, which is what you want to do. We're going to take a red pepper. We can just do it on an open flame right here. We're going to roast the corn. What we're going to do is take the ears down, take the silk out. You can put a touch of olive oil on it, a little bit of salt and pepper, a wrap it back up. And so sometimes what you need to do also when you're at this point, wrap it back up, is dip it in water.
Oh.
If you dip it in water,
Steam it a little bit.
well, also what happens is the husks don't burn.
Yeah.
And the corn doesn't taste burned, it tastes roasted more than it does burn.
Right.
So we're gonna flash this in the oven, just like we flashed the.
And this will all take a couple minutes to get the corn and the peppers. How many of you really like cooking? And you're here because you want to be?
While Scott sets up, we thought we'd check in on some future chefs in training at Durrett Snover's summer cooking camp.
These are some pretty perfect and wonderful and creative looking tarts. How many of you think you might actually cook one day? Do you think any of you could end up sort of cooking as a professional one day?
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay, so tell me some of the dishes you made during this week.
We made like fettuccine alfredo.
Yes, this is
We did ravioli. Ravioli.
Raviolis?
We fresh picked the herbs.
We rolled the
and
pasta.
Yeah, and we rolled the pasta. Cause she's an herb gardener. So.
I started doing this because I really felt that there was a lot of traditions that weren't being passed along, that every family is very busy, and I wasn't so sure that everybody was busy in the kitchen. So I'm just very excited, and I feel honored that so many parents want their kids to learn to cook.
You also are teaching them how to really pick out the best ingredients and
Well,
really
I think
fresh
that's so
local.
important, yeah, so that they can go and know somebody else isn't telling them that's okra that's ready to be cooked.
What about now eggs? Eggs is something that you're really particular about, making sure you get good farm fresh eggs.
Yes, we have chickens out back, so we have our own eggs here.
And sometimes, like today, I picked an egg and it had a chicken in it. And
Oh, oops. These are beautiful. And do we get to take any home, or are these for your
you
family?
can have mine.
I want to take a close-up look at
That was an earthquake, wasn't it?
I don't think he's Eric has the first. And you can also take this. He spilled some bacon.
Got a lot of stuff going in this risotto, and when you mean charring, you mean charring. Of course, this is an area where you hickory smoke a lot of things, and we've got a nice roasted red pepper. That's going to have a lot of flavor. What are we doing now?
I've taken carrot, celery, and onion, which they call mirepoix.
Right.
We've pureed it in the Cuisinart. I'm going to take that and start. So we also have the roasted corn, which I'll deal with. But my pan's getting hot. We're going to take a little touch of olive oil. Just a little touch. I want to sweat that just for a minute.
You love what you do, don't you?
I do enjoy it. Once we get that in there, I want to sweat the onions to where the onions are not so harsh, although they're going to cook for 20 minutes, so that's plenty of time for them to cook. Rice for about 4. There.
When you say rice for 4, how would that be in a unit of measurement?
I think that
Either by weight or...
I think a cup of a risotto, if you're doing it in the scheme of a meal.
Right.
Now, if you're doing it just as risotto, you may want to do 1.5 cups to 2 cups. But I put a little bit more olive oil in there. Now, at this point, I want to coat the kernel just like we're doing rice. Now, at this point, you can use white wine if you want. What I want to do, since we're doing a vegetarian show, is to do a vegetable stock, which I've made here with carrots, celery, and onions. Water. I'll stew it. You can cook it for about 1/2 hour. I think that's plenty of time. You know, it does take about 20 minutes for the risotto, so while that's going, and I want to keep continually stirring it, while it's going, we can set our other stuff. We've got our caramelized onions, we've got our corn. The pepper is the messiest part of it, so I'm going to do it over the bowl. Sometimes when you roast the peppers like this, if you put it in a bowl, put a little bit of plastic wrap over the top, it steams that black pepper off, or the black crust off. Let you pull it off. But this flavor-wise, I think is one of the best things going. What we're going to do for this is just take it into strips.
Seriously roasted. You can smell it. This is going to be wonderful. Nice see you have some herbs up there in the little pot already chopped up. What herbs are we going to be adding?
A little bit of mixed herbs. I mean, I like the freshness of Italian parsley, so we've got Italian parsley in there, a little bit of basil, and a little bit of thyme. I'm not going to add these ingredients until the last point, so the vegetables can stay as fresh as they can.
Okay, so we'll just let it cook down for another minute or two.
Good. Yeah, that's the thing I think is very important, is that you've got to make sure that all the moisture is into the kernels before you add more moisture or more water. And you can add water.
That's the difference between risotto and any other rice dish.
I think so. The kernels are so hard, and you've got to do it gradually.
And we're wrapping up the risotto here. It's absorbed all of its liquid, and you're just going to put a tad more in. Okay?
One thing that people don't understand about risotto as well is once you do get the butter and the Parmesan in, which we're going to use grana padano today, you really can't add more liquid to it, to the risotto, once you put the butter and the Parmesan in. But if you found that your risotto is a little thick and you're getting ready to serve it and you still got your hot liquid, you can loosen with the liquid. It just won't absorb more.
Right, that makes sense.
So you need to look at it that way. All right, so we've got everything. I like to turn off the stove and add everything at the end. I don't like to add butter and Parmesan to the risotto unless I'm going to put it in the plate.
Okay.
So I don't want to take it back because I don't think it emulsifies as nicely as it should.
Right. And voila, here are your herbs, and it's almost risotto. Well, it is risotto. It's almost finished risotto.
So we can use butter. She told me that I could use butter, by the way.
You don't have to. You can use a little bit of olive oil if you prefer and keep it pretty vegan.
Sure.
Well, you're still adding a little cheese anyway, so it's kind of up to you whether or not you can do the saturated fats.
But once I get those in, I may need to have a little bit of heat, but it doesn't look like I'm going to have to.
So you add your herbs as the very last thing?
We'll put the herbs on the top.
Oh, you sprinkle them, okay.
Or we can put a little bit inside. I mean, either way. I'm going to put them on
Looks
top.
good. This is a hearty dish. This does have a southern feel with the corn and the peppers and all of that. And while you finish that up and put it on the plate, we're going to go to our wine consultant, David Berkeley, and find out what he would serve with this wonderful southern Italian risotto.
Regina, if I know that you're going to put a plate of risotto in front of me, I will have a red wine waiting. And that's because it seems to me that regardless of the accompanying flavors that are in the risotto, that the flavor and texture of our boiled rice that's used to make risotto just absolutely calls out for red wine. Now, no doubt, one of the wines, the Italian red wines from northern Italy, such as a young Nebbiolo, a snappy Barbera, or possibly a young and fruity Dolcetto with a touch of Rossanti, would be perfectly appropriate and delicious. But my number one choice is a light and youthful Pinot Noir. And that's because that when I think about the flavors, like the nutty, sweet flavors from the caramelized onions, or the slightly smoky character coming from the grilled corn, I think of Pinot Noir. Now, we make a dish that has some similar flavors. It has smoked tomatoes and smoked mozzarella. And it's so interesting that those smoky characters absolutely sing with Pinot Noir. By the way, when you're going to get that bottle of light Pinot Noir, ask your merchant to make a selection that favors the sort of the red cherry side and serve the Pinot cool.
Scott, I feel a scrumptious lunch coming on. This is wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing your space and your creativity with us today.
My pleasure.
Till next time, santé.
Arrivederci.
To find out more about Regina's Vegetarian Table, visit our PBS website at pbs.org.